Hi, hello, good evening, my young officers. Welcome to this YouTube channel called as Unacademy UPSC Articulate YouTube channel. So this is Nisha Nujumudeen, your educated Unacademy, an expert in Indian economy, current affairs and MCQs. So here we are with the most interesting series of the day, which is the special marathon series, guys, on the special occasion of International Women's Day 2022. So yes, in this particular occasion, here we are with an amazing topic, that is gender equality for sustainable tomorrow. And this is actually the theme that has been taken by the UN, that is United Nations, for the current year Women's Day as a whole. So yes, how are you all? Let me ask you all that. How do you feel on this International Women's Day 2022? Yes, Team MAO, good evening, and thank you so much for all the Women's Day wishes, my learners. Yes, Divyanshu, PSC, Saindeep, Tejas, Amanda, good evening to all of you. So, yes, I can see people slowly joining out there. Good to see that. The Josh as well. Yes, am I audible and visible to all of you? Is everything fine? Perfect. So here we are, my young officers, on the special occasion, as I told you, of International Women's Day, with an amazing series that is exclusively based on the topic, that is gender equality for a sustainable tomorrow. So you would have seen that as a part of the IWD, that is International Women's Day 2022, hashtag break the bias. Many of you would have considered that particular topic as a theme, but let me tell you, according to UN, that is United Nations, the real theme for the year 2022 is gender equality for a sustainable tomorrow. So now in this particular topic, there are three different aspects to be considered. One is from the point of view of societal justice. Next is governance. Next is the environmental perspective, because the keyword sustainability is coming. And the next is with regard to the economy perspective. So society, governance, environment, economy. Multiple disciplines are coming under the so-called objective or theme of the current Women's Day perspective. And that is why I thought, chalo, today I should actually bring this topic of discussion, which is indeed the most important topic. Don't you think so? Yes. So once again, thank you so much to all my learners for the International Women's Day wishes. And I even wish back all the amazing girls and women out there a very, very happy Women's Day. That is the International Women's Day. It's not just today, guys, but then let me tell you, it should be it should be celebrated 24/7 without a doubt. No doubt in that. Take care. Perfect. So here we are. So before going to the class, guys, a quick look into my profile. I'm one of Unacademy's top plus faculty, handling a load of free classes and paid and plus classes pertaining to current affairs, economics, NCRT batch courses, and also MCQs. So don't miss it out. Every day, early morning, 6 a.m., you have the current topics in news series that is happening. So don't miss that lecture. And when the clock strikes 6 p.m. in the Unacademy special classes, we will be having the UPSC level MCQs for prelims 2022 with a proper 360-degree coverage. So these are the regular sessions that I'll be doing. So today, because it is Women's Day, I thought I should come up with some extra sessions. That is why I thought of Chalo coming up with the so-called, a CD as a whole. That is taking into consideration the theme of the current International Women's Day. Here we have the gender equality for a sustainable tomorrow. So now in this particular session, couple of things, or let's say the multiple factors, what we'll be discussing is, before going directly into the topic of discussion, you should know what is the importance of the so-called International Women's Day. Don't you think so? Yes. Second thing is, apart from that, how it started, a quick look into some factual data with regard to the history, the background, and the importance or significance of this particular day. And then we'll directly move into the theme. Why is the theme called as gender equality for a sustainable tomorrow has been chosen? Does it have any sort of linkage with the 17 SDGs? Any linkage with any one of the goals of sustainable development perspective? If so, why? And what is the reason for sticking towards the environmental perspective, that is sustainability? So multiple factors like this will be analyzing. Clear? And also, what is the stand of a country, India, with regard to the so-called theme of the current 2022 International Women's Day? and also a look into the various other factors, conditions, and scenarios of how the entire globe as a whole is seeing girls and women's out there, not only a country, India, because when you talk about women, it is the entire global scenario. But a special focus will be given to our country, India, because indeed we are Indian, so we need to understand that in a better way, followed by analyzing the problems or challenges associated, and then the way forward, what we can do to make sure that the so-called biasness or the so-called disparity has been reduced. Clear? So this is what we'll be discussing all throughout the series or sessions. I hope it is very, very clear to my young officers. Fine? Perfect. So here we go, my young officers. To follow me for all the updates, you can just see my telegram here, Nisha Nujumudeen for UPSC. You can just go to Google and type my name and the various links pertaining to my social media platforms. You can follow to get all the regular updates. But keep this in mind, 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. This is my regular timing for the classes, the daily rituals I'm talking. 6 a.m. begin your day with the early morning current topics and news. And then 6 p.m. is time to test what you studied. So then pertaining to those particular topics, we'll be doing an MCQ series out there. Clear? So here is an amazing quote of the day before beginning the class, my young officers, with regard to Women's Day. Happy Women's Day to every single girl and woman who's watching this. Because yes, she is a girl. Yes, she is independent. Yes, she have rights to live a life in her way. Yes, she have her dreams. Yes, she have male best friends. Yes, she have right to walk alone on street. And yes, she have right to wear any kind of clothes. And yes, she holds a respect. Doesn't matter if she black or fair or tall or short or fat or slim. And yes, she is a responsibility. So we got to respect the entire girls and women's out there, because remember one thing, our ma, or let's say a mother, or you call it as amma, that who is the shining light of every one of us, is again a female, a woman. So she has every single right to live her life to the fullest and make sure that her dreams have been achieved. So that is once again a very, very happy International Women's Day to all my fellow beings out there. Okay, so flaunt your flaws and make sure that you are enjoying your life to the fullest, no matter whatever challenges are coming your own way. Don't wait for anybody to challenge you, or don't wait for anybody to tell you that you got to take up this. You should be your own challenge. That's a beautiful thing that you can actually bring out in yourself. So go for it. Clear? Yes, Nitish, welcome to you as well. Perfect. So here we are. So and before that, guys, regarding the Plus platform, you all know that. So any doubt and queries towards the end of the class, you can just ask me. The code Nisha IAS Live is a code that will give an access to watch the free classes and also to get a discount of up to 20 to 25% in the Unacademy Plus or paid, iconic or premium subscription, with all the benefits that is shown up in the slide as a whole. Clear? Perfect. I can see the Josh in all of you. So without wasting much of time, let me quickly get into the topic of discussion. So yes, are you all ready? You should be indeed. Come on, yeah. You should be. Come on, that's a great kudos to all of you. So here we are. Why are we studying this particular topic, guys? The gender equality for a sustainable tomorrow. The reason why I didn't take any other topic with regard to the women perspective or empowerment or anything is because all these are general things which you know. But taking into consideration the theme of the International Women's Day, okay, put forward by the UN, which is gender equality for a sustainable tomorrow, it is indeed very important to have a look into the multiple perspectives or aspects of the women's outlook, right? So now, the reason why we are discussing this particular special lecture today is because we all know that for the current year 2022, the theme of IWD, okay, which we celebrate every year on 8th of March, is considered to be with regard to the equality perspective for females. And this year, very clearly, they have said that gender equality towards a sustainable tomorrow is something that is very, very important. And that has been taken into consideration after understanding, or let's say recognizing, what the contribution made by the efficient young girls and women out there around the globe or the world, because they are leading the charge on various perspectives with regard to climate change, adaptation, mitigation, and response. So then they'll be able to build what? A more sustainable or a long-term future for all. So you can see the subject called as society, governance, and environment, along with economy coming up under the so-called single theme of the current International Women's Day 2022. So that is how we're going to analyze this particular perspective. Yes, Ashanka. Thank you so much, Ashanka, for your wishes. Great to see my students here from Hindustan as well. Sometimes kabhi when I see my students from the Hindustan University where I work as a professor, you feel very good. Those children, indeed, the kind of warmth, the kind of, the way they are, it's something that cherishes a lot. Anyways, back to class. Here we go. Let's quickly have a look into the static or the background of the so-called International Women's Day. So most of you know that we basically celebrate International Women's Day to recognize the efforts and achievements made by women in various fields like economic, social, political, and also the other cultural achievements, right? But there is a reason why one particular day called as March 8th, every year you got to celebrate it. So if you see every year, we all know that March 8th, we commemorate it as International Women's Day. And that is basically because, as I told you, you want to recognize the accomplishments of women across the world in every single perspective of field, like the economic, the cultural, the social, and the political achievements. And at the same time, when you celebrate, or let's say when we celebrate International Women's Day, guys, not just for India, but for the entire globe, the basic objective or the aim is what? To increase awareness among women. Why? Why do you think you need to increase awareness among women, guys? When you keep doing that, the so-called second gender, that is how people describe us, but we are not. We are actually another gender, just like the male gender. Okay. So now, basically, when you celebrate this, automatically, this will enable the women out there to take a stand and oppose injustice based on gender in society. When you talk about gender equality, there are some set of people who say that gender is considered to be male, female, and transgenders. But that is again a very sensitive topic of discussion. But over here, we take into consideration, the general perspectives of the male or female out there. Okay, but that doesn't mean that, we are saying that the male gender should not be protected, or they shouldn't be considered at all. No, SNA, it's not the case. We need to understand that every single gender, be it a man or a woman, they got to be respected for the way they are. It's like when you lift up each other, both the males and the females, in the right manner, you can see an empowerment there. When you talk about women empowerment, when you talk about empowering the deprived people, it's not just the women alone who can do that. You need the support of the male genders of the society as a whole. Because when you get back to your homes, you have your mom and your dad, who's again a man and a woman. And for a child to be born, you need both a man and a woman. So come on, let's actually break all this kind of gender disparities and understand the fact that each of our contribution towards building a stronger India and building a stronger, world, thereby spreading happiness and peace, is indeed very, very important. For that, both the genders are equally important, and we have to contribute it to the fullest. And now, why only women's is taken into consideration is because if you take into consideration the majority of the population, again it is women, and many times the deprivations, the discriminations, or the vulnerability is being focused on this particular gender, especially in our country India, with regard to the various perspective, like the education, the health, the orthodox mentality, the superstitious mentality, the fundamental beliefs, or whatever it is. That is the reason why we're focusing on this as a whole. You even have International Men's Day that has been celebrated, let me tell you that. But why women is important is because that's quite something which requires more and more attention even today, due to so many factors that is putting them down. You understand? That is the sole reason. So the people who are watching this session, please don't mistake that, okay, ma'am was only talking about the women. What about the men's out there? And that is why I made it very clear that for a child to be born, you need a man and a woman. So both are equally important. Okay, just think that. But here, why we're giving more importance, I have clearly stated that for the reason that the deprivations, the vulnerability is seen more in the women category. So we need to bring them up to make sure that such kind of biasness and such kind of disparity is being taken away. Clear? Yes, Deepesh and Tejesh. I'm so happy to see 100 plus learners in the class. Indeed, a great thing. Brilliant. So anyways, here we are. The International Women's Day, in spite of your caste, creed, color, sex, religion, height, weight, size, whatever you are, we are all one. Hannah, that's the whole point. Yes, Amanda. Happy to see you in the class after a long time because it's Women's Day. You ran and came. Huh? Kallatarams. Okay. Now, Let's quickly have a look into the history and the importance of the so-called International Women's Day. Why are we celebrating it and when did it originate actually? If you see, for more than 100 years, I can tell you that yes, we have been observing the so-called International Women's Day in literal sense, and it started spreading across, Europe and America initially. Okay, and that is a symbol for Women's Day, guys, and this symbol is something that is related to the mimosa flower. It's a yellow color flower, guys, called as mimosa, not a momos, it's mimosa in Italy. But now, those are some of the stories behind the International Women's Day. But anyways, if you see, since the early 1900s, we can see that the International Women's Day has been always celebrated or commemorated. When you talk about the history of International Women's Day, it can be dated back to the 1900s, guys. If you see, approximately in the year 1908, a total of 15,000 women, okay, they stagged a march through the New York City because they couldn't take it up at all with regard to the discriminations, with regard to the inequalities that they were put into. Like, they started demanding better wages. They said we need shorter labor hours and also the rights to vote. They were kind of put aside, or they were kind of discriminated on various perspectives. So they started raising their voice then and there. It is said that a woman by voice, okay, or let's say a woman is required to raise a voice as and when required. But then to identify her voice become remarkably difficult. That's a reality, guys. That is, a woman with a voice is actually a stronger woman. But to identify that voice becomes remarkably difficult is something that we all know. But then, when somebody starts reverting back to it in a nice way, for what is your right actually, things take a huge toll. So similarly, in the year 1908, when 15,000 women, when they started doing this, there was some sort of changes. And thus, what happened? They said that, okay, we need to understand the rights of the female gender as a whole, and that is how, guys, if you see, on February 28th in the year 1908, the so-called Women's Day was observed. So it was not called as International Women's Day, it was called as National Women's Day. Okay, for the very first time in United States of America it was observed, and till 1913 it was called as National Women's Day, and every Sunday, last Sunday of February, they used to celebrate. And slowly, as the years changed, what happened? The so-called National Women's Day was renamed as International Women's Day by the UN, that's United Nations, and on March 8th we started celebrating it. Clear? And thus, if you see, even after a few years, that is in the year 1911, in March 19th, some of the countries like Austria, Denmark, Germany, Switzerland, mostly the Scandinavian countries, they recognized again International Women's Day and and telling us that, come on, it's quite important for us to observe and create awareness of such kind of day, so then we'll be able to uplift the female or the women population out there. Because we all know that, see, God has given us a lot of different capabilities and abilities, being a man and a woman. A man may be physically quite strong enough, but then if you see a woman, she may not be that physically strong, but emotionally, intelligently, and also she's somebody who can do a lot of works called as multitasking at the same time. That's why we often refer women to Ma Shakti. In India, we do that. The one with different hands. I mean, that's how we consider her to be a goddess as a whole, for the fact that she's so good at multitasking. But if you ask her to be so, strong enough to lift, 100 kgs of barrel, she may not be able to do that, because physically it is not necessary that she should be that strong enough. But maybe because she is emotionally and mentally more strong, she could do that. But every gender has their own capabilities and capacities to be achieved, and we need to understand that and respect that to a greater extent. Clear? Anyways, back to the topic of discussion. As I was telling you regarding the history, how the so-called International Women's Day emerged. Another important point is that, again, as the years passed by, on February 23rd, which was during those days, guys, on the eve of World War I, it was going on, and it was the last Sunday of February, the Russian women, they again celebrated their first International Women's Day. So when you hear the term Russian women, the next thing that comes to your brain is the current Russia-Ukraine war or conflict. Am I right? Yes, indeed, that's what that comes to your brain. So now again, if you see, on the eve of World War I, way back in the year 1911 and all, again on the last Sunday February, as a kind of liberation, all the Russian women, they celebrated their very first International Women's Day. And soon after it, really, what happened? The so-called International Women's Day was decided to be observed every year on 8th March as per Gregorian calendar. Till then, it was celebrated on last Sunday of February, guys. Clear? This is the history of the International Women's Day. I think a lot of you would be celebrating the International Women's Day without knowing what exactly it is all about, how it has originated. The reason why I told you this is because it is always good to know the roots of certain things, because these are very, very sensitive topics and topics which should have a clear-cut understanding of how it evolved over the years. You understand? So that is why it has been taught to you as well. And thus, since then, what happened, guys? The so-called International Women's Day, even today, it has been celebrated across the world, I can tell you. And if you see in the year 1975, now your so-called UN made the official entry. And it is after the year 1975, the United Nations observed their very, very first International Women's Day. So officially we can say that chalo, after the year 1975 only, we have the International Women's Day across. We had it before, but then officially when UN came, things changed it. You understand? And thus, the very, very first annual theme of UN, or let's say United Nations, with regard to International Women's Day was celebrating the past, planning for the future. And that was announced in the year 1996. It took so many years for them to bring about a theme as a whole. So this is what the history of the International Women's Day is all about. Did you understand? That is enough, guys. Nothing more is required. These many points are perfectly fine with regard to the topic of discussions. Clear? Okay. So now, why do you think, guys, the United Nations in the year 1975, when they decided to celebrate International Women's Day, and for the very first time when they came up with the theme in the year 1996, called as what? Called as celebrating the past and planning for the future. There should be a reason for that. Every year, if you see last year we had another theme, this year we have another theme. Why do you think every year UN is coming with one kind of theme for the International Women's Day? Don't you think there should be some reason for it? Yes, there is indeed a reason for that. So let's quickly have a look into the UN and the theme with regard to the International Women's Day. What makes them choose such kind of theme? If you see, according to Hillary Clinton, she has said that women are the largest untapped reservoir of talent in the entire world. No doubt in that. For the fact that even in our country, India, half the population, let's say majority of the population again are women. And many of their talents and resources are still being untapped or unutilized. And if you see, for the current year 2022, gender equality and sustainable tomorrow, these two topics are combined. So now gender equality in the context that we want to make sure that the untapped potential, or let's say the resource of or the talents of females should be utilized in the entire globe. And now why sustainable development means it should be for everyone, inclusive of all. Okay, so that is why the factor called sustainability is coming up there. If you see, according to Ban Ki-moon, it said that sustainable development, it's a pathway to future we want for all, right? We need to make sure that we have to achieve everything for a longer perspective. Using the resource for the present generation and also utilizing them for the future generation is what the sustainability concept is all about. So this so-called gender equality for a sustainable tomorrow theme of the current IWD 2022 is nothing but it's offering a framework. So then you'll be able to generate economic growth, achieve some sort of social justice, and then you can exercise a kind of environmental stewardship and strengthen what governance. Because these days, if you see, growth and development is not only concentrated or focused on what the economic and social indicators. Just by having an increase in the gross domestic product, that is GDP, or let's say just by having an increase in the literacy or education rate, or let's say an improvement in the living standard, or let's say an improvement in the health sector, it doesn't make a sense at all. Today, if you want to talk about development, which is called a sustainable development, economic indicators plus social indicators plus environmental indicators, it do plays a major role. Let me tell you that. So all these three things are taken into consideration for the so-called concept of sustainability. So that is why it is said that gender equality in the context of sustainability, where the factor called environment and climate, all these things are combined. So this is a holistic objective. If you see over the past few years, not at any point of time, actually the UN has come with such a kind of theme. Let me tell you, has come with such a kind of theme with regard to what? With regard to Women's Day. This time the theme is so much relevant with regard to addressing the basic issues with regard to the gender perspective, equality, disparities, and also climate and sustainable perspective. That is why the word called sustainability came there. Clear? Yes, Abhimanyu and Amanda? Perfect. So now, we all know that when you want to achieve gender equality, okay, in the context of climate crisis, okay, and also disaster risk reduction, which is in the context of the pandemic, that is COVID-19 and all. That is one of the greatest global challenge of the so-called 21st century. We have issues with regard to climate change. Because of climate change, the entire livelihood of the people is getting impacted, not only in our country, India, but across the globe. And also with regard to this pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic and other viruses, again, this is a kind of disaster. We need to reduce all these. So now, achieving or advancing such kind of gender equality, allowing more and more females to come into the forefront to actively contribute in these sensitive issues is also very, very important, because all these are actually the greatest world or global challenges of the current 21st century. Now you can connect this topic to the 6 a.m. current affairs what I've taught you. Remember I taught you women and healthcare workforce, where especially in this pandemic scenario, what did we observe, guys? We actually observed that a lot of women leaders were required, but many a times they were ignored, right? The women healthcare workforce is something to be considered, where it's time for them to get transformed as a leaders out there, because their contribution towards this pandemic and the other reduction of the pandemic and the rest of the virus and all was indeed huge. So now the fact about gender equality has to be brought in to enable these genders to have a better connection with such kind of common objective as a whole, with regard to disaster reduction, with regard to the virus reduction and stuffs like that. So that is why this year the theme has been brought in that perspective. Is it very clear? And we all know that the issues of climate change, sustainability, it have had and it will also continue, guys. It's not like it will continue again. It has always been there. That is, it have had and always will continue to have a very, very severe or bad and lasting impact on what? An environment, economic and social development. So it's very important that we are addressing the so-called burning issue called as climate change at the earliest. So for that, again, actively involving or bringing more of females and enabling them to contribute in multiple perspectives based on that is indeed very important. That is why this time the theme is a broader one, which consists of the equality perspective of genders and also sustainability out there, which is again from the environmental perspective. Did you understand, all of you? Yes, Mahesh, Tejas, Amanda and all fine? Huh? ठीक है? Perfect. So now, here we go. Now, what does this picture tell you, guys? What does it actually show out there? What do you feel seeing this particular picture? A woman is standing with the paper out there. Is that what you see, or you are seeing a woman standing with the hat out there? What is that one thing that makes you surprised out here? Yes, Devatashni, good evening. Yes, Deepesh, what do you see out here? You should be telling me quick. Why women and environment? Why do you think the current International Women's Day should have the gender equality, where we talk about the women perspective, and why the sustainability, why environment? Why do you want to connect these two concepts into one single umbrella? This is something that pops up in the brain of anybody, don't you think so? Yes, it do pop up, no doubt in that. So let's quickly have a look into why women and why environment. This is something to be addressed at the earliest. So let's quickly have a look at it. Point number one. If you see, those who are among the most vulnerable and marginalized experience what? The deepest impact. We all know that. Now, what is the meaning of this? Who is the most vulnerable and the marginalized? Of course, women do come under that category. So now when any sort of environmental issues or climate issues are come on, they are being affected to the most. They never know how to tackle it due to lack of resource, due to lack of finance, due to lack of so many other perspectives like education, health, so many things like that. So now because they're more vulnerable and more marginalized, they have the deepest impact that is coming out from the environment as a whole. So if you see, to all the issues with regard to the environment, like climate change, is the burning issue. It is said that women being the most vulnerable and marginalized section today. See, don't take into consideration the few women that you see in today's scenario. Of course, I can tell you that our finance ministry has been led by a female, that is Nirmala Sitharam. We have the textile ministry by Smriti Irani. We have currently the SEBI, the Stock Exchange Market Regulator, Securities and Board of India, again headed by a woman. Multiple domains women are shining, no doubt in that. We have to wait and see for the RBI governor also. Let's wait and watch how it goes. Anyways, so now they are only a part of the society, but still inclusiveness with regard to the development of female is not happening. That is why when you take your country India into whole, or let's say when you take into consideration the entire globe as a whole, still women is considered to be the most vulnerable and marginalized section, guys. So now women are increasingly be recognized as more vulnerable to what all the environmental issues like climate change impacts than men, because they constitute the majority of the world's poor, and they're more dependent on what all this natural resource which climate change actually threatens the most. This is the linkage between women and environment. Did you understand? So most of you would have thought, "Arey, ma'am, what are you telling? Why are you talking about women and why do you talk about environment?" This is the connection, or let's say the interlinkaging between what students, the interlinkaging between women and environment. Is it very clear? As simple as that. These are the two valid points, clear cut, or let's say to the point with regard to the question why women and environment. Clear? Another important point is that at the same time, women and girls, they're quite effective and also they're powerful leaders. That's what I give an example with regard to country India as well, with regard to the finance minister, the other ministers and all, right? And also if you see even the leading corporate people out there, again, we can see women. Not only in our country, and if you see globally, if you see many countries out there, the president and PM of many countries are females again. They're again leading the country out there. If you see for most of the international brands, we have females out there. But inclusiveness is not happening. There are so many powerful leaders. If you see Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, all these people are again women, right? But then, in spite of the fact that women and girls are effective and powerful leaders and change makers for climate adaptation mitigation, still a lot more has to be done, because the deep penetration, or let's say the decentralization perspective, or the micro level penetration of reaching it to every single woman out there in the nook and corner of the world is not happening. That has to happen. Only then the factor called vulnerability, the factor called marginalized sexual society, these terms can be eliminated from the category women. And also majority of the population, they constitute women. That is why this particular thing is happening. And if you see, women are again involved in what? In sustainability initiatives many a times around the world. And if you see their participation, or let's say our participation and leadership results in more effective climate action has been seen. So it's indeed very important that women are also pulled into this particular perspective to a greater extent. Clear? For that, education is one such weapon. Second is the kind of opportunity that they have been given multiple perspective, economic, social, cultural, and also political perspective. Otherwise, they cannot showcase it at the best. Another important reason why you think why women and environment for the current theme of the International Women's Day 2022 is when you start continuing to examine all the opportunities as well as the constraints or difficulties. See, to empower or to raise women and girls to have a voice and be equal players in all the decision making related to climate change and sustainability is very important. For what? For long term or sustainable development, also a greater gender equality. So you can see when such kind of thing is happening, come on, the gender equality is something that is being brought in. So normally when you talk about gender equality, you talk about, okay, give more and more rights to women, give more and more opportunity to women. Oh my goodness, all the bullshit and cliche kind of topics you keep discussing again and again. That doesn't interest you, neither excites you. But today, if you see, even I myself is more excited and interested to share a lot of valuable information to you people with regard to the environment, with regard to the gender equality perspective. Two different things are being linked under one single umbrella. So now, since the majority of population women, when you're kind of training them or empowering them to have a voice and actually contribute in all the major decision-making process and all based on environment, climate change and sustainability, automatically what happens? Gender equality is increasing because they have better say and better active participation in various perspectives, economic, social, and other perspective, and also the factor called sustainable or long-term development, because they are actually involving in that, and the end result is also focusing on what? How to reduce climate change issues, how to make it more eco-friendly. You understand? So at the end of the day, we are able to attain the results of sustainability to a greater extent. This is how women and environment is being connected by young officers. Is it clear? So this is a different way of analyzing the so-called theme, the current theme of IWD 2022. And thus I can tell you, today, as far as the recent 21st century is concerned, without gender equality, a sustainable future and an equal future remains beyond our reach. There is no doubt in that. I can write and give you the statement, no doubt in that. It's true. If you don't have equality, see, equality doesn't mean, chalo, I'm a man, you're a woman, okay, we are equal in everything that we do. Aisa nahi hai. That's not the case. You are good at what you do and I'm good at what I do. Now, respecting each other's differences and respecting each other's, similarities, and then holding hands and working together for a better future, for a better progressive global peace is what we require today. That's called as gender equality, And now I can tell you that only with gender equality, if you can achieve a sustainable or long-term future and an equal future. Otherwise, it's something which is beyond our reach, I can tell you. This is what the United Nations have also told us. Clear? Is it very, very clear, all of you? Perfect. And now, having understood all these points, a quick look into the topic of discussion. Yes, the current theme of International Women's Day. What do we find in that? That has been aligned with the priority theme for the upcoming 66th Commission on the Status of Women. What is that? Achieving gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls in the context of what? Environment, with regard to climate change, environmental and disaster risk reduction policies and programs. That is in the context of, healthcare workers. You remember a couple of days back in the 6 a.m. class, I took a session based on women and healthcare workforce. Don't you think it's time to, upbring the leaders within them? Transfer them to the leaders out there. Remember the same thing. Yes, Tejish, what is it? Ma'am, in the world of gender equality, why do we not celebrate Men's Day, Transgenders Day, as same as Women's Day? Is it not giving only one gender importance? See, that is what, Tejish, that's a good question asked by you. Let me tell you that. This is what I told you in the beginning of the class. We do have International Men's Day also. We do celebrate it. Who told you we don't celebrate it? Yes, we do. But see, more focus and importance, like how you give importance to International Women's Day, is not being given to International Men's Day for the fact that, especially in our country, India, men are not discriminated much, or they are not marginalized much, or they are not vulnerable. Let me tell you this. By default, they are none of these. Unless and until if somebody makes you feel like that, okay. But in the context of women and girls, that is not the case. Because of orthodox mentality, because of superstitious belief, the economic, the cultural, and other scenarios, they are forced to be like that. So bring them out of the shell becomes a tougher job. Let's say out of 10 people, 9 of the women will be in a vulnerable case. Whereas out of 10 men, it will be only hardly 1 or 2. So the ratio is quite the highest for the girls and women out there. So we need to give more importance to this particular, gender. And also for the fact that if you take the total population as a whole, again, majority of the population is women's. That is why this issue of vulnerability comes. Whereas the population of male is less over there compared to women. You understand? If you take the sex ratio, if you take other perspectives like that. So again, you can connect load of economic, concepts into this. Is it very clear? Perfect. So don't you think so, guys? This is an interesting thing, see, because the current Women's Day theme even excites me a lot for the fact that the climate, the environment, and gender equality, multiple concepts are coming under one single umbrella. So this time, the one who has framed the so-called theme of, International Women's Day really makes sense. It is providing an answer to so many perspectives. Like, does gender bias really exist in our current scenario? Or how can we connect it with regard to different perspectives, with regard to economy, society, political perspective. But nobody would have ever thought of connecting it to environment perspective. You know why environment? Because today, if you see, environment is the most important and sensitive issue because our livelihood depends upon that. And now, climate change and also the disaster risk reduction policies and program with regard to the pandemic and other perspective, it's also very important because majority of women have to be brought in, they have to be transformed themselves to leaders and they should be given more initiative to be an active part of it. So equality is coming at the same time, the objective of attaining that eco-friendly perspective or environmental protection, all these things is also coming up. So it's two in one umbrella. You understand? It is like you're getting two objectives under one single umbrella achieved. So this, in such a manner only, the current International Women's Day 2022 theme has been put forward by the United Nations. Clear? Yes, Team Emma, what is it? Ma'am, I have a question. Matter of concern for women and transgender. See, transgender again is a very sensitive topic. So normally, some people refer them as the third gender. It's like male, female, and transgender. But let me tell you that not many transgenders want them to be addressed as a third gender. If they are a woman, if they get transformed to women, they feel themselves to be called as a woman. If they get transformed to a man, they want them to be called as a man. They don't want themselves to be considered as such. Of course, they are proud enough to be a transgender, but then they also come into one particular gender without such kind of bifurcations. You understand? So they are happy in their own way. See, their rights, their protections, their stuffs are totally different. That is why you have so many amendment bills. Transgender Protection Amendment Bill of 2021 passed in the Parliament with regard to the education, with regard to the right to vote, with regard to so many perspectives like that. That is totally a different topic of discussion. I think in the 6th same class I've discussed that as well, Tejas. You can even go through that and we can have it once again. Nothing to worry. Clear? Over here, let's not confuse those two concepts out there. This is the general gender equality for a sustainable tomorrow. It can consist of those genders also. Nothing wrong in that. But basically, we are focusing on the female or the women gender out there. Clear? Yes, Nitish, when men are keen about expressing emotion, society is against them if they cry and express it out. Yeah, that's a wonderful point out there, Nitish, which captured my attention also. See, it is a so-called stuff that has been brought up in the mind of people that, okay, men are strong, so they shouldn't cry. See, being a woman, I would say that, no, I also do not want to cry. Just because you are a woman, do you call yourself melodrama? अरे इतना नाटक है वो लड़की. Sometimes people say, अरे वो लड़की इतना नाटक है, इतना ड्रामा है, इतना melodrama है. Started फिर शुरू हो गई. It again started. But if it's a man, come on, if it's बहुत अजीब है. It's like very strange if you see a man crying or a boy crying. If it's a boy, it's okay. Men crying. Come on, we're all humans made with blood and bones, as thick as and fresh as red. So now you cannot expect a human being to not to express the emotions, be it a male or a female. You are taught not to do that. Nothing like that. You have to lend out the emotions. You have to cry when it is supposed to be like that. Nothing wrong in that. But now bearing the pain, overcoming the challenge and difficulty is something that is more important. See, now it is okay to break, it is okay to fail, it is okay to be hurt also. But then there comes a phase or a stage in life where you heal, you overcome, and you rise. Now that is something you this will happen to you only when you go through these stages. So I think crying is something that is okay. All these are the kind of societal stuff that is instilled into your brain that you shouldn't. If that has been told out to a man, let me tell out to women, come on, you shouldn't cry. Why you do that? Unless and until it is required. But emotions are to be vented out if it is really that important, be it any gender. So these kind of things are also to be considered, guys. Anyways, back to class. Yes, Imao, what is it? Are women compared to environment, or the equality will play major role in sustainable development of environment? See, women is not compared to environment, team Imao. Their role, because majority of population is again female. So now when you kind of encourage them to actively come into all the decision making policies and frameworks out there with regard to climate change, is again a burning issue to be resolved compared to any other issue, because that is a root cause of so many issues out there, be it your education, be it your health perspective, be it your other environmental perspective. So now, and also the COVID-19 pandemic, which comes under the disaster risk reduction perspective. So now all these things, when you start encouraging more and more majority of the population, which is females, to come out there, this particular issue is also getting solved. At the same time, gender equality, gender empowerment, and the upliftment of women is also happening. So this time the UN or internationally, they want to achieve two different objectives under one single umbrella. They're very double smart, yeah. They're not smart, they're double smart, I should tell you. Clear? Yes, they're comparing it to environment, because see, they're not comparing women to environment. See, we need to achieve equality, no doubt in that. And the next thing what they've done is, in simple terms, what is the current burning issue? Environmental issues with regard to climate change, because it is causing a lot of issues like greenhouse gas emissions, with regard to the threat to the survival. Now, because if the climate is not proper, the health issue, the health, index is also coming down, because you need to spend more and more money on the health perspective. The expenditure increases, wherein people cannot work properly and efficiently. So what happens to the economic growth and development, the production? It comes down. The school children or the college students cannot go to their education institutions because environment is not proper again. So at the end of the day, their efficiency comes down. You understand? So multiple factors are connected to this. So sustainable development consists of economic plus social plus environmental factors incorporated together. We all know that, right? So now gender equality is also what you want. That is what every Women's Day we try to achieve. So now why don't you couple this objective with the so-called environmental perspective? And there is a huge reason for that as well. In this pandemic, guys, if you see, most of the women or the girl workforce out there, you can see them working for this COVID related issues and camps and all. So now enabling them to lead the workforce, or enabling them to shine out well with better package, with better pays, and with better outputs, it adds a lot more sense, don't you think so? That is why equality plus enabling them to actively contribute to the next important burning current affairs out there with regard to environment is also connected. Nowhere women is connected to environment. It is connecting the equality perspective. That is, this is also what you need. And on the other hand, this is another big objective. So two different current affairs are interlinked under one single umbrella with a proper interlinkaging connection or method. Did you understand? So this is the real meaning of the theme called as International Women's Day 2022, the gender equality for a sustainable tomorrow. Is it very clear, all of you? Yes, Soham? Perfect. Because it is Women's Day, oh my goodness, I can see the numbers sprouting up like anything. Pata nahi kya hai, people are so smart. Good, good to see that. 100 plus learners in the class. That's a great kudos. Anyways, now, thus, what is a brand kit for the IWD 2022? Guys, now I want all of you who are using the social media platforms or who are quite active out there, hashtag IWD 2022, guys. It's very important with the theme because that's something which can, yes, Dani, that's something which can make a lot of sense. Okay, even in Twitter, you can tweet it again. Again, if you see, the brand kit for the current IWD 2022 is for this particular year's International Women's Day. What did United Nations do? The UN Women, they have partnered with visual artist Bruku Koleli. Why? Because they want to develop imagery illustrating the so-called 2022 theme, which is gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow. Only if you're able to achieve this equality today, you can think about a sustainable or long-term tomorrow with regard to the entire globe as a whole. They really wanted to develop an imagery illustrations out of this. Clear? That was again a brand kit of the current IWD 2022. Now, let's quickly move to the next important topic of discussion. Now, we were talking about gender equality, equality at least more than 10 to 15 times. Let's quickly have a look into what exactly it is. If you see, every child, be it a man or a woman or whatever, you deserve to reach or let's say achieve the so-called objectives that you want to do. So every child deserves to reach his or her full potential. But now when factors like gender inequalities in their lives and in the lives of those who care for them, when that is hindering this reality, it becomes a big question mark. Don't you think so? Yes. When they try to do something, or let's say when somebody who cares for them is kind of been stopped from enabling them to do that, kind of all the good things with this to break the so-called inequality perspective, the process gets disturbed actually. So gender equality is something where you need to make sure that, come on, every child is able to live life to the fullest potential, like how they want, provided the protocols are followed, right? Look at this. You can see a lot of children out there. You can see males, you can see females, you can see a boy, you can see a girl. It's not about only the boy can go first or the girl can go first. You have to teach them to go with each other together. You got to teach them to coexist with each other right from their schooling. That is a time when the factor called gender inequality can be destroyed from the grassroots level. Don't you think so? Yes. And gender equality is something that is quite very, very important as a whole. Clear? And if you see again the SDG goals of 2021, what does it tell us, guys? What does it actually tells us? Yes. What does it actually tells us? If you see under the goal number 5 of gender equality, goal number 5 of SDG, that is Sustainable Development Goals, it tells us to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. This is something that all of us know as well, right? So now again you can connect the current International Women's Day 2022 theme to the so-called SDG goals as a whole, goal number 5. Because they're very much concerned about achieving the so-called gender equality, thereby empowering every girls and women out there. So this year's theme has also a lot more to do with the SDG goals as well, which is put forward out there by the UN. But though this is the case, do you think it's that easy to achieve this gender equality just like how you say out of your out like that? Okay, you say we want that equality, this equality, etc., etc. But do you think is it that easy to achieve, or let's say to attain? Come on, no. So let's quickly have a look into this. Yes, Soham, what is it? But there is something called male chauvinism. I have seen some boys see women very mean, Even some boys cannot tolerate girls surpassing them in any field. So those are old stories where you can see in the movies. Even today, it is there, but they think twice before they do that, because today you cannot see the girls and women out there are that deaf and dumb. Okay, they're quite smart enough. See, of course, we do have people who are very scared or frightened in the rural part, or let's say in the interiors, or who are not that exposed and all. But in the urban side and all, come on, fatafat, left, right, center, they give these days. Let me tell you that they give tick for tack like anything. Yes, Kunal, namaskaram to you as well. So then multiple things like that is also there. That's the beauty of it actually. Anyways, so as I was telling you people regarding the so-called gender equality for sustainable tomorrow, there are so many hindrances or challenges out there which we need to consider with regard to this particular topic of discussion. Okay. So here we go. What are the challenges that is preventing from us attaining the so-called objective at the earliest? If you see, the so-called gender inequality, it constitutes one of the history's most persistent and widespread form of injustice. Don't you think so? Yes. And now if you're able to completely eradicate or wipe out or eliminate the so-called gender inequality, believe me, it will be a call for one of the history's biggest movements for change. The moment the factor called inequality is taken like this and dumped out there, and there is no more inequalities, no more discriminations, no more vulnerability, that will be a huge revolution in the history of the entire world, not just a country, India, I can tell you. And if you see, another big challenge is that women and girls, even today, they continue to suffer vulnerability and discrimination and violence. Let me tell you, violence, especially domestic violence, guys, in every part of the world. Not just a country, India, not just in any underdeveloped countries. Even in America, if you see the northern part and the interior sides of it, women have been kidnapped, raped, thrashed for no reason. Why? All these are kind of inequalities out there. And if you see the gaps in gender equality, they do exist in every single sector, be it agriculture, be it industry, be it service sector. You talk about the corporates, right? One of the most biased sectors is the corporate sector. There exists inequality, or let's say biasness in the corporate sector as a whole, with regard to the age, the sex, the color, the kind of caste, creed, whatever you belong to, you dress. Oh my goodness, they do exist. So now we feel that in the so-called white collar jobs, or let's say in the so-called high paid job, that is not happening. I have told you this many a times also. You remember? Even in the so-called entertainment industry, like a Bollywood films industry, come on, huge crores of monies are getting into the pockets of the males and female actor and actresses. Even over there, Priyanka Chopra, once she has passed a comment at one of the very famous speech out there, that is, if a male is being paid 10 crore, or let's say 20 crore for the same movie, for the same role, for the equal role, a women will be paid only just 5 crore or maximum 10 for 9 let's say 8 crore, but they'll make sure that it's quite less than the male for actors out there. Why is this kind of inequalities? Are we not worth it? That is a question she posed out there. You understand? So now, even in that kind of entertainment industry, this is happening. So you just think about the daily wage earners, the casual laborers, and the other people out there. It becomes a very big question now as such, right? So yes, we do have such kind of inequalities as well. Clear? If you see in South Asia, when you take into consideration entire South Asia, okay, only 74 girls, they were enrolled in the primary school for every 100 boys in the year 1990. But whatever, due to a lot of schemes, policies, programs, and other empowerment perspective, by the year 2012, some changes were done, but again, the enrollment ratios were the same. Though they tried their best also after so many years, more than 10 years also, come on. The enrollment is same. For every 100 boys, only 74 girls were enrolled. When you take into consideration sex ratio, come on. It is only around 912 out of for every 1,000, of males out there, except for the state of Kerala. For every 1,000, 1,000 males, you have 1,008 females, 1,080 females out there. So 80 females extra in the state of Kerala. In my state, that's quite a different scenario. But anyways, generally, if you see, that's not the case. You understand? This is another important point to be understood. And if you see another important challenge with regard to the gender equality to achieve that, or let's say why the so-called gender inequality is there, is if you see in almost 155 countries, at least one law exists which impedes women's economic opportunities. Why? Why does it happen? Why does it even happen in a country, India, is something we have to question at the earliest. And if you see the gender gap or the gender pay gap, they cost global economy $160 trillion. And now tell me, we have seen a lot of females these days out in the political perspectives, and many women are ruling our country, India, as well, in various different ministries. But do you really think all the women have been empowered to do so? No. The political empowerment, economic or social or cultural empowerment is not reaching up to the point, because only 23.7% of all national parliamentarians are women. Where is the remaining ratio? I expect at least 50% to come there. Okay, remaining 50 could be men. We are not saying 100% should be women, but at least 50, not even half, not even 25, 3/4. It's below that. But coming days, we can expect more and more females to be a part of it. Let's hope for the best, guys. That's what I can say. Clear? Yes, what is it, Imao? Just taking them for granted and equality only in pen and paper mode. Social media and all, but not in reality. Yeah, see, I cannot say not in reality. It's just there. See, I'm a woman. I was a girl, now I'm a woman. So I feel that I have been honored, or let's say I'm equal in what I do. Doesn't mean that I'm equal in punching a man just like how another man punches the man. No, it's not like that. Equality is in the kind of respect you get in society, with regard to the payment you get, with regard to the status you achieve. So you carve your own path the way you want it beautifully. You kind of got to flaunt yourself the way it is. That's the time you kind of realize a lot of things. Don't you think so? Yes, indeed. See, these are a couple of things which I always wanted to tell you people. Believe me, always I wanted to tell you people. No doubt in that. Clear? Excuse me. Yes? Okay. And another important thing which I want to tell you people is, see, many a times we've come across various scenarios and various stuffs like that. You need to understand one thing. Okay, I will not say women or man, or I will not say women should reshape. I'll use the term we, because I feel that, see, though more importance have to be given to women gender, no doubt in that. Even males have to be focused. So let me make it as we. That will add more value to what I'm talking here, because it comprises of all the genders together. So we need to reshape our own perception of how, let's say, we view ourselves. The moment you think, okay, this is how we view ourselves, why the hell are you even worried about what others think about you? What others will think if you wear this dress, if you eat this food, if you sleep there, if you sleep here? What's wrong with you? Come on, it's your individual choice. It's your freedom to do whatever you want under the context of legality, under the context of what is right and what is wrong. You understand? So now, the moment you understand that reality, the three-letter word called as why you, when you understand that is more important, and when you start reshaping your own perception of how you view yourself, things change. And we have to step up as women or men and take up the lead. And here I will use the term women because they are the most vulnerable. You understand? So this is something to be understood. Because many times we know that women are the real architect of building a society as a whole. We all know Jawaharlal Nehru once said, once upon a time he said that when you educate a man, you educate a, individual. But when you educate a woman, you educate a generation, because that is indeed a reality, guys. No doubt in that. So when that has been prevented or that has been grabbed out from their hands, things take a huge, or let's say a different toll out there. Did you understand, all of you? So keep this in mind. It's not, in the hands of others about how we think or perceive about ourselves. We are what we are. So does what we think, and what we do. That's more important. Is it very clear? Yes, Soham, what is it? You are being like Shashi Deshpande, ma'am. Why? I am only Nisha Nujumudeen always. Let me not imitate anybody. I don't think I should do that, because every different individual is unique in their own way, in his or her perceptions of being of no of what she wants actually. That's the beauty of it actually. Yes, so what is it, ma'am? Security is an issue for girls. Many parents do not allow their girls to join jobs. One of my mother's colleague was not allowing her daughter to join Ministry of Foreign Affairs. See, that is because the extra care, the extra fitting that everybody has. See, emotionally, we are bonded and we are attached to, our family, our parents, our blood relations, and etc. etc. But that shouldn't be a reason for you to prevent yourself from attaining what you want. So please understand the difference between IQ and EQ on a clear-cut perspective. Intelligent quotient, IQ, and EQ, emotional quotient. Your emotional balance is very, very important, guys, because sometimes if that is not strong, then the intelligent quotient will fail in spite of the fact that you're so talented, you're so brilliant. And then coming and telling that, okay, I have sacrificed this for my parents, I have sacrificed this for my child, for my husband, doesn't make a sense. Keeping all these things, you should know how to take it. Otherwise, then there is no point. Come on, you need to balance it. That is why women is called as, Ma Shakti, hai na? With who is multifaceted, who is multi-talented out there. So why not? This has to be balanced. So if that girl was listening to her parents and she was prevented, means maybe she didn't give a second thought. She would have actually convinced her parents on the same. Even if they're scared, you got to live only one life, right? So if you cannot live the way you want after so much of achievements and stuff, then what is the point? Do you get a self-satisfaction? Do you get a happiness in spite of all the money that you receive? No. So think for yourself. That's more important, guys. Be it a man or a woman, when you start thinking about yourself, it makes a load of sense. Believe me. Forget about what others tell you. That doesn't at all matter. There are a lot of people who are so good to me, who smile to me, who hug me, who come and say, "Oh my goodness, Nisha, you're so good, you're so sweet." Or some of the senior professors and ladies, and you can come and tell me, "Kana, you're so good." I said, "Thank you. Beta, you're so good. Beta, God bless you." But what are they doing it right behind me? Oh my goodness, how can she have so much of big mouth? Today, if you see one particular woman out there, she was like, I just passed, it was a very random comment that was passed there. She used a word called as cholesterol, which is called as koluppu in Tamil. Okay, I was wondering what is she using that to me? She said, look at the koluppu she has in her mouth. A woman is telling to me, just imagine, for the fact that I was just kidding with her, hey, ma'am, please come and stand here for the photograph. I was just wondering how could somebody use the term, called as matlab cholesterol, jada impertinence. Come on, yaar. That shows the way you see somebody. That shows the way you respect somebody, irrespective of the ages, whatever it is. So those kind of things, they're not able to accept or digest the fact that when you grow or when you outgrow compared to what they are. So even today, this happened to me, and I was like wondering how could somebody do this on the occasion. 5 minutes before a particular person, being a woman, she wished me Happy Women's Day and God bless you. And the very same person is doing this right in front of me and after another 2 minutes. So people are like that. People are like that. You cannot help it out. So, but it doesn't mean that your growth has been stopped, your personality has been shrunk, or you cannot do anything. That is okay. You got to just keep going with the flow because that adds more value to what you do, what you perceive, and what you think about yourself. You understand? Anyways, back to class. As I was, telling you people regarding the challenges. So thus, if you see again, another important statistics along with the, national parliamentarians data, I can tell you, out of 3 women, only three women experience some form of physical or sexual violence in their lifetime. That is also there, guys. That is also another important challenge with regard to equality. Even today, that is happening. Even a 2-year-old kid is being raped. Come on, tell me what is there in a 2-year-old kid, yeah? A kid, you say kids are the creatures of God. You can see God in a kid or a child. What do you really see in the 2-year-old kid is something that astonishes me. Really. So there are so many kind of violences that is happening, even to very small baby as a whole. Sometimes by their own family members as well. We every now and then hear the news is out there, right? So now all these are actually showing what? All these are actually showing us the kind of challenges that a woman is facing or striving to get the equality out there. Clear? Yes, Tejas, what is it, ma'am? I have seen this quote today. One not born woman, but rather becomes a woman. What can we get from this quote? Chalo, you have seen a quote like one is not born woman, but rather become a woman. See, Tejas, from that particular quote, what you should understand is that anybody can be, see, you are born. There is no choice of your birth. You can be born as a man or a woman. And in future, or let's say as life proceeds, you can turn yourself from being a man to woman or from woman to a man, called as transgender perspective. So now, even if you're born woman also, undergoing all the sacrifices and still sealing your mouth and chop sitting in a corner and saying that, chalo, this is my fate, this is what I should do, this is what I should teach my children, I am sacrificing for my family. Oh my goodness, bullshit again. That doesn't make you grow. That is why it's said that a woman with voice by definition is a strong woman. But to find that voice can be remarkably difficult. Yes, it is true. You got to find out the voice within yourself. It doesn't mean that you are screaming and yelling out there. That is not the voice. The voice here is the kind of change when she wants to bring about in her own life in the perception. The moment she decides to become herself. It is a tough journey. It is not that easy. It's not that easy like how I say. It is a tough journey, believe me. So now from the particular quote, what is meant is like, you even if you're born as a woman also, but the moment you decide to make a huge impact or change in the domain that you're put in, when you at least you're able to inspire or pick up one woman out there and showcase what exactly she is supposed to do, then you become one. When you start embracing the leadership qualities, when you start embracing confidence in your eyes and your mind and your words, come on, then actions speak louder than words, applies aptly to the growth of that particular female. Did you understand? Because you're kind of redefining the evolution of you yourself being a woman. That is the meaning of this particular quote. Is it very clear, Tejash? Perfect. Now, why do you think this is important? Why do you think the so-called theme is important? If you see gender equality, come on, it is not only a fundamental human right. I will not call it a fundamental right, rather fundamental human right it is, gender equality. Not only that, guys, even the gender equality is very, very important because it is a necessary foundation for what? For a peaceful and sustainable world. When you kind of exclude women, okay, you should understand that half the population itself is women. And when you exclude them from all the opportunities, you can never even think of building a prosperous society and economy. So we need to include them, whereas inclusive development is indeed the need of the hour, which consists of what? The vulnerable population, which is women, because they constitute the majority out there. And they should be given equal access to education, decent work, and representation in all the economic, political, social decisions out there. So this is making process, or let's say, this is not only bringing out showcasing their rights as a woman, but also this will benefit the entire humanity at large, because a woman, when she takes a decision, she takes into consideration the entire population out there. So by investing in the empowerment, or let's say the upliftment of women, that is, it's not women development, rather women led development, we not only make progress for our country India, and also we are not only contribute towards the progress of goal number 5 or objective number 5 of the SDG, that is sustainable development goal, but we also make a load of improvements on what? Eradicating or alleviating what? The so-called factor called poverty, and thereby fueling or increasing what? Sustainable or long-term economic growth. You see, gender equality has so much to do with the SDG goals of poverty, inequalities, of sustainable economic growth and all. Did you understand? So how it has been connected? So this time, very beautifully, the method of interlinkaging of the so-called gender equality has been brought in. So that's a great kudos to the ones who have actually framed it. Clear? So now what you can actually do to address this very big issue, guys, of inequality, gender inequality. One is, if you see, as per the SDG, that is Sustainable Development Goal 5. They talk, or let's say they aim to eliminate every form of discrimination and violence against women in the public and also private spheres. At the same time, we need to undertake some reform or changes, because then only this will give some sort of equal right to women to economic resources and also access what? To ownership of property. Otherwise, it cannot be the case. But if you see, there are multiple perspectives and domain women has been uplifted. If you see, for various schemes put forward by the government called with regard to the LPG, liquefied petroleum and gas, with regard to the connections of them, they make sure that the women is the leading perspective out there. It will be in the name of the female women out there. If you see in the ration cards and all, they try to make the women as a leader out there. So in all these schemes of the government also, they're trying to include females out there. But it's not just on the paper or on the cards out there. Rather, it should be in their actions also. That is what the government is also telling in our country, India. You understand? So this is one such point to be understood, guys. And you can see, as per goal number 5, that is gender equality of SDG, you need to achieve this objective of equality and empower all women and girls. If you see, only 65.46% of women in our country, India, are literate educated. Compared to how many percent of women? Oh my goodness, 82.14%. What is this here? Come on, this is something that is not acceptable. This has to change, because majority of population itself is women, which means they're not even getting considered. They enroll. It's not like they never enroll. They do enroll for the primary, secondary, and high educations, but many times in the primary education or secondary education itself, they get dropped out. Just like how the GER, gross enrollment ratios, are higher, the dropout ratios are also higher, for the fact that they attain puberty, they don't have proper infrastructure or sanitation, hygiene facilities, they have to travel long distance to come from one village to the schools, so then they drop out. So when we are able to address all these issues, half of the problem can be solved. Clear? Again, if you see in the national if you see the parliamentarians out there, with regard to women perspective, women hold only 11% of seats in the Lok Sabha, but 46% in Panchayat institutions, guys. It's a different scenario. Altogether, only 23.4% they hold seat in all the national parliamentarian levels as a whole. So you look at this, enrollment of girls is 100% for the middle meal programs and that, this, etc. But then Dropout is more. And if you see, primary they enroll, but what about higher education? Only 74.6% are being enrolled. Sorry, 74.6% are not enrolled in higher education, which means a very few of them have been enrolled. Clear? And if you see out of 1,000 boys currently, what is the child sex ratio? Only 919. But there's an exception for Kerala, guys. For 1,000 boys or 1,000 men, you have 1,080 females. That's a different thing. Clear? You see how many women are in the workforce? Just 27.4%. So all this should change. Don't you think so? Yes. Let's quickly have a look into the goal 5 in a country. Whatever I've told you, you can just go through all this. Now, point number 1 talks about the seats in the Lok Sabha and also in the parliamentary perspective. In Lok Sabha, it's very less, but they're trying to, bring more and more females out there. But in the Panchayat Raj, the local institutions, the number is increasing. Take care. And if you talk about the violent perspective, the violence against women, if you see, a baseline study, it showed or revealed that in New Delhi, 92% of women, they had experienced some form of sexual violence in public space during their life. And that's true. See, every now and then any girl, it could be, it doesn't mean that you have to be raped exactly. It could be some sort of molestations. It could be some sort of violence out there, which you feel uncomfortable. It could be physical. It could be verbal. It could be, oral. All these are kind of violence only in the public space. No doubt in that, because you are not being respected, or let's say the other gender is not being taught how to respect a woman out there. That is why all these things are happening. This all should be taken off, guys. Only then you can think about achieving equality to greater extent. Clear? And thus I can tell you that hold on. Hold on. Yeah. And if you see in the year 2016, close to a third of total crimes, okay, which was reported against women in India, that was cruelty or physical violence, and that was not by any third people, okay, within her own family, let me tell you that, by her own husband or let's say her own relative. Can you believe this? So pathetic, Hannah. And if you see, the government of India has identified ending violence against women as one of the national key priorities. Don't you think so? Because that is something which is in lieu with the so-called long-term or sustainable development, which is one of the targets of the UN or let's say United Nations on gender equality. Otherwise, you cannot even think of achieving it. That there has to be national priority. That is why if you see in the current year also, they took into consideration gender equality, which is a national priority for them, and compiling or let's say, coupling them with the so-called sustainable perspective out there, which is environment again. Again, with regard to education and empowerment of girls, in our country, India, we all know that the PM Ka scheme, Beti Bachao Beti Padhao initiative for giving education to every girl's children. Why that was brought in? Because they wanted to make sure that equal opportunity has been given for whom? The females, right? And also to make sure that the education is being provided and they're not being deprived about it, because education is an input and the output is employment, which will fetch them a better income and a better status as a whole. And if you see what happened in the Karnataka hijab row, we all know that because of the so-called uniform perspective, the hijab perspective, many children were even denied of education from by their own relatives or let's say their own family, which for the fact that okay, we cannot send our children, violating our rules, violating our religious rules or whatever it is. So now those such kind of schemes are brought in by the government also multiple times, because such kind of sensitive issues which has been popping up, it is having a stop. Don't you think so? But anyways, our government is still making sure that okay, multiple schemes have been brought in. If you see, in addition to all this, some specific interventions on female employment, then programs regarding empowerment of teenage or adults and girls, then the Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana on girls and prosperity, then Janani Suraksha Yojana for the mothers, advance India commitments to gender equality. Sab kuch has been brought in. Why? For the fact that we are able to overcome the issue to greater extent. Clear? And they have so many targets also to end discrimination against all women and girls everywhere, to end all the violence, to end all the harmful practice like child marriage, early and forced marriage, female genital mutilation. Oh my goodness, multiple things like that. I think if we can refer to a video called as, I think in the month of January, I've done it. Yeah, in the month of January in the 6 a.m. class. Okay. Raising the legal age of marriage from 18 to 21. need or a curse. In that particular video, a clear-cut understanding of the child marriage and multiple perspectives like this I have discussed. You can just get back to the video for a better understanding. It was one of the most highlighted, or let's say hit list video of my that particular month, guys. Okay. So now we need to make sure that what is more important is when you're putting a target, when you want to achieve gender equality for sustainable tomorrow, make sure that first the factor equality is achieved. For that, you need to make sure that women's full and effective participation and also equal opportunities for leadership at every levels of decision making, be it economic, political, and public life, is taken into consideration. Then when she has a voice, or when she has a power or stand out there, then taking decisions with regard to sustainable tomorrow and policies out there makes a lot of sense. Clear? Just like how you consider women so important for the household chores and work, consider her so important for the policy making of your country, India. If you say that, okay, if mama is not there, if your domestic help is not there, your home will not be fine, it will be dirty. You give so much of importance for a female to clean it or do it because you feel that will be more efficient. So now what if this woman is coming into the main forefront of a policy, or let's say decision making process for the entire country as a whole? It adds a lot of importance. Or let's say, why can't she lead in a sector in what she's good at? So why can't the so-called efficiency, what you see at her in the household chores or work, can be brought out there with the proper training or skill development, right? So why don't we think like that? Why do we want to restrict a woman or a girl only to that perspective? So when all these things change, only you'll be able to achieve what? The gender equality. That is one of the targets to break such kind of inequality out there. Clear? All these are important points for you to actually know with regard to this particular topic, as you can just go through that as well. Is it very clear? Now, the next important point with regard to the topic, that is gender equality for sustainable tomorrow, is with regard to accelerating progress and opportunities across India for every girl and every boy. See, this is something that is very interesting. So you will think that why ma'am is talking only about girl. Come on, as I told you initially also, it's not just the girl, my young officers, it's also about the boys out there. So now when you accelerate the progress and opportunities across India for every girl and every boy, that matters a lot. That is why I said when you talk about gender equality, it's about every child is deserving what my young officers, they deserve to be what? They deserve to reach the full potential, right? Irrespective of the fact that whatever gender they belong to, they have the right to live the way they want, whether they're a man or a woman, for the fact that they are following the legalities out there. If you see wherever they live in India, girls and boys see gender inequality in their homes and communities every day. That is true. In your home, if you're in a joint family and all, now you can many a times see the elder people telling you, hey, go bring me a glass of water. Even to an 8-year-old girl, you will tell. If there are two children, okay, a boy and a girl, 8-year-old, or let's say 10 each. They will give preference to the girl children to, go inside if elders come, or go and take a glass of water and come, but they will not let the boy do that. They feel the boy is still too young for it. What nonsense is that? Come on. This is something that is to be questioned. Don't you think so? So right from your home, all this kind of drama is happening. You have to eliminate that. Teach your boys. If you want to eat, if you want to swallow, if you want to be active, you got to help yourself and feed yourself. Not every time, everywhere, somebody will be there for you. Don't depend upon another gender. Why can't you do it by yourself? Have some respect and pride for your own self, so that you can do your things independently rather than depending upon somebody that to another gender out there. When you talk that you're so powerful, you're so efficient, why you really want to depend upon a woman out there? Why can't you do it for yourself? See, you can have your domestic help, you can have everything out there, but there'll come a situation where you have to help yourself as a whole. You understand? So that is very important. If you see in textbook, in movies, in the media, and among the men and women who provide the care and support, they always you can see some kind of inequalities out there. And if you see across India, gender inequality results in what? Unequal opportunities, and it is also impacting on the lives of both genders. Statistically, more of girls who are, because they are in the vulnerable or disadvantaged or let's say discriminated position. That is the reason. So both male and female, or let's say boy and girl, both have to be empowered and taught right from their childhood itself the importance of respecting each other. Give respect and take respect. So then you can jointly have a great life. Is it very clear, all of you? And many issues can be solved, guys, to greater extent if this has been followed at their home as well. Because it all starts from your home actually. Because if you see in a country, India, when you attain, till your childhood it's okay, but when you become a teenager, in India, girls and boys, now they experience teenage or let's say adolescence differently. Because if you, once you become a teenager, when the girl is attaining puberty, or she's becoming her, when she's getting a first menstrual cycle, or let's say when she become a big girl, as of you, how you call it, now she got to cover herself more, she got to be more safe, she should not go out at this time, she should not do that. Come on, going out after one particular time, be it man or woman, in today's world is not safe. For the fact that robbery, theft, that, this, a lot of things are happening. Forget about rape, forget about other violence. People are even kidnapped for organs. You know, a lot of, be it man or woman, both are, it's unsafe after some point of time. But if you see, generally boys tend to have more, freedom compared to girls. They cannot even freely move somewhere. Okay, now it is restricting their decisions with regard to your education, their work, their marriage, and also social relationship. If a girl is talking to a boy, oh come on, she is a bad girl. She's kind of not trained properly by her parents. Look at the way she's talking to boys. Come on, here are the boys not human beings? Are the males not human beings? And if it is a boy who's talking to a bunch of girls, oh come on, he's a Krishna out there. He's having a lot of gopikas out there. What nonsense! why don't they call a boy like that? I mean, these kind of things are to be addressed then and there. Be it a man or a woman or a boy or a girl, you're all human beings. When you start respecting and seeing your other gender the way it should be, with a proper limit, okay, things will have a different, scenario. That's something to be understood. Only then you'll be able to overcome all these issues. Otherwise, it cannot be the case. Anyways, but in spite of all this, I can tell you that, see, still today we have a lot of Indian women who are global leaders and who are very powerful in the diverse fields that they have put up. But if you see, most women and girls in our country, India, they do not fully enjoy many of their rights because of the so-called superstitious patriarchal views, norms, traditions, and structures. Oh my goodness. You know what people do if they cannot do anything at the most now? They'll bring religion, they'll bring culture, they'll bring tradition. I don't know why they do all this. We respect religion, we respect culture, we respect traditions, but not too much of it is something you got to take a toll. Somebody is telling you, chalo, you have to get married before 21 or at least before 25. Who are you to tell me when I should get married? Who are you to tell me when I should give birth? You know, some people, they take marriage as a legal license for raping a woman. Just because you are, you are a wife to somebody, it doesn't mean the man can, touch your body without your consent. But many people out there in our country, India, does that. What is that? What nonsense is that? You are subjecting yourself to a forceful rape out there in spite of the fact that you're a husband, wife, or whatever it is. So multiple things like this has to be addressed, guys. So now you need to understand that the moment when in your home, right from your day one in your home, unless until these things are having a change, you cannot expect the greater change in society because it starts from there. Because these kind of things are to be addressed then and there, then in the schooling where you're brought in, and then society as a whole. Clear? Don't you think so, guys? All these are kind of things because this only will bring about a lot of change. Let me tell you that. And now I can tell you that if you want a country to develop, from developing to developed status, not only your GDP or HDI index should grow, but factors like this, social indicator factors like this also have to have a huge change. So thus I can tell you that our country India will not fully develop unless both girls and boys are equally supported to reach their full potential. I will not only say girls, both girls and boys. See, boys also require girls. How can we leave the boys out there? How can we leave the men out there? Don't we have fathers? Don't we have brothers? Don't we have our other fellow boys out there who are our friends and colleagues? They are also important. You cannot say that they have to be left out like that. They also should be empowered, and they should be empowered in such a way that they have to take into consideration whom, guys? They have to take into consideration the females out there. Clear? Because there are risk, violations, and vulnerabilities girls face just because they are girls. And most of the risk, many times, it directly linked to their economic, social, political, and cultural disadvantages because the girls quite deal with all these things in their daily life. And this becomes an acute, during crisis and disasters because they cannot help themselves out. So this becomes quite, pathetic in saving themselves. That shouldn't be the case. They should be capable enough to save their own self. They should be able to be independent and at least, what they want. Otherwise, there is no point at all. You got the point. So these kind of things have to be understood. Clear? So what you can do? Here comes the solution. It is very, very critical to enhance the value of girls by investing in and empowering them. With what? Point number one, education. Next is not only education, skill development, a life skill, sport, and much more. Only when you increase the value of girls, what we can do, we can collectively contribute to the achievement of specific results, not only the short-term perspective or let's say medium perspective, but rather the long-term objective of eliminating gender bias sex selection. Come on, this has to be achieved. Short-term, medium objective are understood, but then long-term objective is something to be attained to a greater extent. You understand? And changing the value of girls, okay? It has to include men, women, and boys as a whole. It's not only the women out there, it's all the girl out there. All the genders are equally responsible for the same. Clear? And it has to be widespread in different scenarios, or let the society out there. Clear? And now we know that adults and girls are teenagers, they are being tortured to greater extent. Now, when these adults and girls are being tortured, or when they're not being given the freedom that they really want, we need a lot of platforms to voice the challenges they face in their everyday life and figure out the better solutions for them, so then they'll be able to build a better future for themselves and also to the so-called communities. They were contributing greatly in what they actually want. Clear? Now, is it very clear all of you? Any doubt? Any queries? Yes, Rahul, ma'am, every day is Women Today is just official announcement. That's what I said, Rahul. See, every single day, it is a Women's Day out there. It's a human day out there. The moment you decide to be yourself is something that is more important. And now, why only today is just to increase more and more awareness and impact of the fact that, okay, this is also existing. You understand? That is why we exclusively take this particular day to celebrate. But 24/7, or let's say the 365 days out there is important for women, no doubt in that. Not only women, for all the genders. That's what I'm trying to take, tell you through the lectures. So I don't want to be biased in one particular perspective. I also give a justification to you why we are giving more importance to women or girls. For the fact that majority of population in the entire country is women, and also they are very vulnerable, or let's say they are deprived. So we need to really bring them into track. That is the reason. Clear? Now, if you see United Nations International Children Emergency Fund, okay. So UNICEF India's 2018-22 country program, okay. They have been developed. There was a country program for UNICEF for our country, India, for the year 2018 to 22. Now, when that was being developed, that was developed actually in response to identification of deprivation. So that is every year UNICEF for different countries, they bring out their so-called development program and all. For our country, India, for the period 2018 to 19, 19 to 20, 2021, 2022, for around 5 years, they developed a country program. And you know why that was done? Because they want to start identifying all these deprivations that Indian children are facing, including gender-based deprivations. In that, they got to know that, come on, gender deprivations are the highest in our country, India. And every single program that has been put across in the UNICEF, come on, they are committed to a gender priority. That is quite noticed explicitly in the program. Okay, with regard to health, if you see, come on, female mortality under 5. That is, if you have a girl children, female infanticide, or let's say lack of nutrition, another perspective, malnutrition, microdeficiency and all, they die. So reducing excess female mortality or death under 5 years of age and supporting equal care seeking behavior for girls and boys is very, very important. So frontline workers, they have to encourage families to take sick baby girl to hospital immediately. Otherwise, that cannot be the case. Nutrition is very important for the pregnant mothers and for the lactating mothers, and also for the children as a whole. And most importantly, women need to be more strong. So now improving the nutrition, not by just by giving some food via the ration shops or the fair shop will make us sense. And improve the nutrition of women and girls, especially by promoting more equitable eating practices. For example, when there is a women cooperative, develop and implement their own micro plans for having a better improved nutrition in the villages, it makes a lot of sense. So these kind of things is actually a micro level projects by the UNICEF to make sure that the country India is able to address the issue of gender, deprivations also to greater extent, and to achieve the factor called as gender equality holistically. Of course, education, we all know that boys and girls both have to be equally treated, no doubt in that, right? It shouldn't be like only after some point of time, it should be like more priority should be given to boys and not to girls. No, that cannot be the case. And child protection, that is, you need to end child marriage and early marriage, because that is something which will actually destroy the life of the girl when she's not even in the age to think about a family or to think about a sexual relation as a whole. When she's too small enough for all those, how can you even think of putting her into all this? That cannot be the case, right? So now protection of children in such kind of scenario is also very, very important. Then WASH. What is WASH? That is improving girls' access to all the menstrual hygiene management. That is sanitary napkins and pad that is available. These days, if you see in the state of Kerala, you have this menstrual cup. Instead of the sanitary pads, there is a menstrual cup that has been brought in. So now improving the girls' access to all the menstrual hygiene management, including through well-equipped separate toilets in schools and all, is very, very important. Because this is all something which will encourage her to come to the school or to the college and not have any sort of dropout after the primary education as a whole. She will continue her secondary or let's say a higher education. Clear? Then social policies. So we need to support the central and state government, or let's say we need to support the policies put forward by them in all the gender responsive cash transfer programs. Why? Only then we'll be able to uplift the girls and women out there, and also we'll be able to support all the women leadership that has been brought in the local governance. Did you understand? If you see in West Bengal, there's a cash transfer program, guys, to enable girls to stay in school. It's an incentive. So this kind of thing, if you bring in every other state now, you can actually see a reduction in the dropout rates, in spite of the fact that they attain puberty, or let's say they have some other difficulty in coming to the school. Even the orthodox belief and mentality will be wiped out if cash has been given to them, because those people, they'll be in the verge of poverty, or let's say in some other perspective, nothing is worth money, people say na, in the context of such kind of difficulty. So this kind of program will actually help the girl children to stay in the school, clear, and to complete their primary, secondary and higher educations. Clear? Yes, Rahul? More focus on their health and hygiene is required. Of course, it is very much important, because if health is lost, everything is lost. So health is also important here, no doubt in that. Clear? And now disaster risk reduction, which is, see, when you actually enable greater gender disaggregation of information management for disaster reduction, you need more and more girls and women to participate in all these activities to have effective leadership and all. So what happens? Automatically gender equality is happening, and also the contribution towards society's development with regard to disaster management and formation of committees and other policies is also increasing. So now gender equality for a sustainable tomorrow is actually connected to all these points what I've told you. Social plus environmental factors. You are able to develop the social objective of gender equality and the environmental objective of sustainability to a greater extent. Don't you think so, my young officers? Yes, it is. Indeed, the reality, let me tell you that. Indeed, the true reality as a whole. So that's all, my young officers. This is what I wanted to tell you people on the so-called International Women's Day, that is today, with the theme that is gender equality for a sustainable tomorrow. So that's once again a happy International Women's Day to all my fellow young officers out there. Clear? So what is it one thing that you got to understand, guys? What is it one thing that is capturing your attention? This International Women's Day is not a joke. It is for a cause. A cause not just for the gender perspective, but a cause for the humanity as a whole, a cause for the entire globe as a whole, because the factor called sustainability is coming up, the factor called environment is coming up, the factor called climate is coming up. So both the perspectives are equally important. So I've told you all the substantiated points as a whole, right? So try to understand it like this. See, when somebody tells, okay, International Women's Day, ma'am is going to talk about women empowerment, or she will talk about girl development, come on. All these things you know. Is it something new? No. So I thought on this particular occasion, I should bring the very same theme of the current IWD 2022, which is gender equality for sustainable tomorrow, and make you understand the history, the background, and the interlinkaging perspective. Because this is very, very important from the UPSC CSE perspective, prelims, mains, and interview perspective. Prelims, the schemes will come. Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao scheme, Janani Suraksha Yojana, that, this, etc. But mains perspective, you can actually write, critically evaluate, analyze the various perspective on the so-called theme of the current International Women's Day. And interview perspective, they can ask you revolving multiple perspective. What is your stake, or let's say the stand on this particular topic? So this is a topic which is to be analyzed in a different scenario. So yes, thank you so much, my young officers. If you really do enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it, put your valuable feedbacks in the comment box, and keep sharing it to all your fellow colleagues out there. So yes, that's all for the day. Did you really enjoy? And that was a special marathon series. I don't want to take much of your time. I thought of taking it up to 2 hours, but 1.5 hours is perfectly fine. This should be fine, guys. Take care. Take care. So I'll see you all tomorrow at 6 a.m. early morning. Don't forget. So 6 a.m. early morning tomorrow, we have the current affairs, or the current topics in news series in the very same YouTube channel. Set your alarms, your clocks tightened up, and come for the class. The topic will be based on, the green coral reef from environment. Okay, it's an amazing topic, so don't forget. So yes, once again, a very, very happy Women's Day to all of you. Any doubt, any queries that you want to bring, quickly ask me. Yes, Soham, ma'am, please bring an economy course. Yes, economy PT 365 will start very soon. Soham, do not worry. Okay, it will happen very soon. So more than 100 plus learners, thank you so much. That to live learners, more than 100 plus live learners for today's session. Indeed, a great honor and pleasure that on this Women's Day, I could see such kind of support given by all my learners. Thank you so much, guys. Indeed, a great pleasure. Chalo. So let's once again, remember the so-called theme of International Women's Day, and also let's hashtag. What is that? Break the bias. Like break the glass ceiling, it's break the bias, because that is very important for the betterment of the humanity, for the betterment of the global peace and prosperity with regard to the humanity out there, right? So thank you so much, my young officers. Have a great night. Shubhratri. Good night. Jai Hind.